Okay, so with Don Saladino.
Whatever he says, I agree.
Celebrity personal trainer Don Saladino is the man behind Deadpool's guns and Blake's too.
He knows what he's doing, that guy.
If I'm interested in health, wellness, getting in great shape.
I think you said the word already, right? Consistency. Like for me, I've been probably the most consistent person I've ever met over the last 30 years.
I mean, the results pay for themselves.
Standards. Don Saladino, that guy, he's got standards.
All right, so let me shoot it to you straight. Ketone IQ has been an absolute game changer for me. Now, I used to think that I had my energy just dialed in, locked in. I'm up early at the gym, podcasting, recording, speaking, all this stuff. And, that life rhythm, right? But there were still dips. There's afternoon dips, moments where I'd hit a wall midday and I'd be like, yeah, I need a spark. And that's when I started using Ketone IQ. So it's not the, caffeine jittery high that you get with coffee and all of that. It's a whole new level. Focus, mental clarity. It's clean. It's a locked in feeling. And I take it before I podcast, before I go on stage to speak. I take it before my workouts too. My body just, it responds better. I'm sharper. And I'm really big on, every single, thing that I do. I want to have the highest amount of focus, the highest amount of clarity. So for me, it's just become part of my routine is Ketone IQ. It's a non-negotiable for me. It's part of my rhythm. No crash, no nonsense, just real usable energy, and it just keeps me in the flow. So go to ketone.com/David and try it for yourself. That's ketone, ketone.com/David, DAVID. And trust me, you will feel the difference. All right, let's get it then, Don Saladino.
Right.
Now we're rolling. Hey, now we're rolling. Welcome to the doctor and the nurse. Thanks for coming on here, man. We were just talking beforehand, and you're talking about being 48, and that is an absolute lie. Like I am looking, if you're watching this on YouTube, I see those veins popping out of your biceps right now. Let's go. Hey, let's go. Let's do this. Let's have a little fun here. Let's go. We'll go for the high level of if, I'm interested in health, wellness, getting in great shape. Let's go some points that need to be staples consistently for you. And then let's go a little bit deeper and let's go like, okay, here's some things people don't really know that you are game changers.
Yeah. And I think I think you said the word already, right? Consistency. Like for me, I've been probably the most consistent person I've ever met over the last 30 years.
Wow. That's a good statement. Yeah, I love
No.
I love it. I love consistency.
1996 was the last morning I woke up and I went to the gym and said, I'm not doing this today. And I walked out because I just felt like such shit. So 1996. And that's it. So yeah, have I gotten sick? Have I been hospitalized? Sure. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about from an actual pure discipline standpoint. I'm talking about waking up, because we're not always going to be motivated, right? Like motivation is not, people are like, well, how do you stay motivated? And I'm like, I'm not always motivated, but I'm probably the most disciplined person I've ever met. So, I've been a coach for 26 years. I've probably trained over 40,000 1-hour sessions in my life. I mean, I'm fortunate now to where the one-on-one training now is really taking the back seat. And I've got a company that I'm running with my wife, and it's done pretty well for us. And I'm normally like hired per job, or if there's a specific thing I have to get someone ready for, I'm like a hired gun that'll come in and prepare someone for something. But otherwise, I'm never, really with anyone one-on-one anymore. And I think you said the word consistency, right? I think over the last 26 years of doing this professionally plus, I've just been a student, and every year it's been hiring new nutritionists. I started with blood work back in probably the mid-90s with Dr. Gary Wadler. I was 16 years old going in for blood work. I was doing things that most people just weren't doing. And, I've been on over a dozen magazine covers. I was on 4 of them since 2018, Men's Health, and 3 with Muscle and Fitness. And I just feel like that my overall shape gets better and better, and I feel like I'm in a better and better place. Now there's things I have to do a lot differently at 47, soon to be 48, and I had to do it at 26, but the body composition piece keeps improving. The recovery piece doesn't. Like that becomes more of a challenge. Like aches now or things come on and you have to, do things to, recover, and you have to really know how to acclimate to how it is you're feeling. Like I just had a red light bed installed in my home today. So like there's always things that I'm doing to try and improve. But at the end of the day, it's like I know how to train, obviously, but I always focus on some sort of improvement when it comes down to strength. Now, if I'm training more for work capacity, which is 20 reps, or if I'm training more for strength and power, which is in that 1 to 5 rep range, or if I'm training more, which some believe to be more hypertrophy, which could be anywhere in that 6 to 15 rep range, whatever, right? I'm always focusing on improving those numbers. So anytime I start a new training block, I am pushing myself to improve those numbers. Now, it's physically impossible to always improve, right? Like it's not going to happen. No human being's ever done it. But I feel like my success over the last, close to 3 decades has been that I'll jump into a training program. It's very purposeful. I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, but it could be something like kettlebell training and I'm in. It could be something like power building and I'm in. It could be something that's a little bit more sports specific and I'm in, but I'll dive into that like it's the be all end all. So I don't think I ever get caught in that monotonous, I'm never going through that monotonous piece of like overuse to where, I'm a power lifter for 4 years trying to just max out my overall squat or my deadlift. Like I'm a strong dude, but I have a lot of my friends, like my buddy, who's a real estate broker, Marcus Leone today was showing me pause deadlifts at Marcus Leone, he's doing pauses at 300 kilos, right? For sets of 4. Like it's a lot of weight, 300 kilos for sets of 4. And he's just building up. Yesterday, I hit 515 on the dead. Like, I'm like, okay, it's a good number. Like not bad. I'm 210 pounds, like pretty good, but I'm by no means am I world class in any of those areas, but I'm kind of one of these people that have always tried to be really good in all. Whether it's, running a 452 mile in college or squatting 500 for a triple, like those things, I've kind of always lived in the world of being pretty good at everything. Yeah. But I wouldn't say I was ever world class in one thing. And that was, I think, because of how I structured my training.
And you're continuing to make me more jealous as this goes on.
Stop.
So I what I think is fascinating though, is you have this knowledge of, I'm a big believer in like, there's people not knowing. You can forgive not knowing, but once you know, and sometimes it's almost like too much where it becomes a hindrance. I think for myself and a lot of people, it's almost more of a guessing game. Like you say, hey, I don't stay in this, I don't stay in this, I don't stay in this. How do you know? Like, how do you know the right programming for it? Like consistency absolutely, takes the cake. That is number one. But how do you know, like, when you're the right programming, or even like, do you go to failure or are you two reps in the tank? Like, what are some more detailed things you're like, hey, you know what? Most people don't know this, but yeah, I do.
I don't go to failure all the time. I mean, I've been trying over the last few years to really follow a structured plan when it comes down to going to failure. Maybe the reps in reserve will kick in a little bit higher on week 1 of a program. And as the weeks go on, I'll taper those reps in reserve down. But I'm not going to tell you for a second where you come in and you feel like a monster and you're pushing the envelope, or you have a couple bad nights sleep or some travel coming up and failure just might not be in the cards. So I believe in having a template and going in there, but I think when you become good at coaching and you understand training, you understand to deviate from that when need be. How to switch programs up? I mean, a lot of it for me has been, I want to have fun with my training. And
That's a good point.
Yeah, but it really is. And there are certain attributes I always like to try and improve, and they're contradictory. Like I want to have a high level of endurance. I want to have a high level of work capacity, but I also want to be strong. So when I commit to a certain block of training, I'll kind of live in there for a while. I'll get myself up to a point where I feel it's suitable. And if I start getting bored and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just not having fun with this anymore, I might deviate off. And the next thing you know, I'm back into power building, or I'm back into something that's almost a little bit of an extreme. I wouldn't necessarily say I go to extremes where I'm like specifically running training and the resistance takes a back seat. Resistance training for me is always the entree. And I think the cardio piece is a little bit more the side dish. Yet I take, like, people kind of, they kind of poo-poo cardio training, right? And it's like, it's such a funny word to use, but oh, it won't burn fat. Like, of course, cardio training can burn fat. Like, of course it does. Like, well, how are we saying it doesn't burn fat? Like, you're going to burn calories doing this, and you can improve your metabolism. I think it really is that the best thing? And, I do believe that resistance training, you're going to raise your basal metabolic rate. You are going to burn more calories at rest, more fat calories at rest. But I play ice hockey 3 days a week. I'm in like a really great league. And where in the past I would not do any cardio in season, I find myself now on every day where I'm not playing doing zone 2 cardio because I feel like it's become very restorative. And I actually got that from Andy O'Brien, who works with a lot of NHL players. He's a friend of Jordan Shallow, based out of Canada. I'm going to go see Andy at the end of February, and I'm going to kind of shadow him for 3 days, and I'm going to learn from him. I've been doing this for 30 years, in the sense of always trying to be a sponge and always try and learn. And if I can go into Andy and leave there after 3 days having one thing that I'm like, oh, this is great, I'm implementing, for me, that's a win. And that's how I stay educated. And it is interesting to hear different perspectives and I'm not talking about science-based here, right? Because now it's like, oh, follow me for science-based training. No, but think about that. I want science-based, but I want practicality also. I'm sick and tired of hearing the coach who just wants to regurgitate what they heard from a lab, what information they received from a lab, or what research was broken down. Did you apply this? Have you applied this to your people? Have you applied this to yourself? Have you gone in for testing before and after? And have you been able to form your own hypothesis? Or are you just sitting here throwing really intelligent words out in the open, and you're using words like science? So now everyone needs to be impressed, and you're looking at the coach who's talking this way, and they're at 22% body fat and they can't squat 225 pounds. So I'm not coming at anyone here. Maybe I am, but I think it really is, everyone wants to kind of shit on each other. And the reality is, I want to know, if there's research with this topic, fantastic. I'm going to read it. I'm going to take it into consideration. But when you're doing it, what I'm doing, as long as I've been doing it, I can't tell you the amount of coaches I have that I'm friends with, Dr. Greg Rose, Mike Boyle, who 10, 15 years later, I'll go up to them like, man, you were saying something different. They're like, I've changed my mind. And it just shows that, like, at a certain point in someone's career, they could be talking about something like it's a definitive. And then later on, that narrative changes. And that's just something I think most people need to be on the lookout for.
I'm so glad you said that. You're preaching to the choir over here. I mean, I'm 100% on board with application and knowing what actually works. Like I always get, just amazed when people will talk about, well, in this lab study with these rats, and like if we are the same as rats, then yes, I get it 100%, but there's no way. And then it is just like all this science. And I'm at the point too of, it's just, with biohacking and all you'll see some of these people that are, biohacking and it's vegan and it's this. I'm like, dude, you look unhealthy, you look pale, and you don't look strong at all. Like, I don't know if that's the type of longevity that I want, man.
And what are we looking for here? I mean, how are we quantifying success, right? I mean, I've said this before, one of my grandparents, she and her 4 or 5 sisters, I'm drawing a blank right now. I think it was 5 of them total. They all lived to be the ages of like 95 and like 105. And I mean, they had a scotch every day at 5 o'clock, and they'd start cooking at noon, the old Italian ladies, and they're cooking with olive oil. They're eating pasta, sure. But they're making meatballs, and everything's with fresh herbs and olive oil. And, you start assessing their levels of stress, and the whole veganism thing. My daughter's a pescatarian, so she does it more for humane purposes. And I think the chicken and the beef grosses her out. And I'm like, okay, own it. She owns it. Totally. She's gotten into great shape doing it. But you know what? I eat animal protein. Yeah. I do. And so what is this now? I'm going to have someone turn to me and say, well, you're not going to live as long. Like, well, wait a second. What if I live to be 95 years old and I'm doing pull-ups and I die in my sleep? Like, Like, what is that? Like, that to me is pretty successful. What, I got to live to 102 and be 130 pounds my entire life and frail and not strong? Because when I'm listening to certain doctors talk about this, and they're talking about things like intermittent fasting, which are tools, by the way, they're tools. There's a certain way I want to live my life. I want to hold a certain amount of muscle. I want to be strong. I want to have body armor. Training for me is something that I do because I love. I'm not searching or chasing a product. I like my body looking a certain way. I like being strong. But when I go in and I train, the goal is for me to go in there and to be optimal at what it is my homework assignment is on that day. So if I'm going in and it's a recovery week or a deload week, I got to be great at recovering. I got to be great at deloading. I got to stay true to what it is the plan is. And if there's ever a day where it's time to deviate off of that because a bunch of friends are getting together in LA or Vegas and we're gonna crush a session and we're gonna decide to start squatting for an hour and a half. Okay, man, like I've got the foundation to be able to handle it. You'll have fun. You deviate off of that, and you know what? Though it's a little crazy that one session, your body can support it and handle it, and you build this level of camaraderie and community amongst a group. You guys have fun. And you leave there feeling a specific way. I chase a feeling when it comes to training. I chase a feeling when it comes to me eating properly, right? But everyone it's always like this argument, right? Like I track, and someone I've learned from for close to 30 years, Paul Chek, is like, you shouldn't track. Like you should be eating nutrient dense foods and pay attention to the soil and all that stuff. And I'm like, I get that. I understand that. No one knows that better than you, Paul. You're a genius. But the woman out there or the guy who's got a lot of question marks and is eating food and is only getting about 10 grams of fiber in a day, that might be a problem. If someone's turning around and they're getting about their body weight in protein in grams one day, and then the next day they're getting half, but they're not recognizing this because they're eating good quality foods, but they're so volatile day to day and the amount of bulk that they're having, right? They're eating enough one day, they're not eating enough another day. They're eating enough one day, they're not eating enough another day. And that could cause issues. And I think things like tracking can become beneficial to people. So again, to each his own. I always say, what are we training for? How do you feel? What's your blood panel like? Are you in a good place? Because if you're having ice cream every other night and you take your shirt off and you look great and your blood panel's phenomenal, but it's just a taste of ice cream, knock yourself out. Go for it, right?
Man. Totally. So funny, like you hit on that point of like definitives. I think definitives are so dangerous because most people don't know like what Paul Chek or some other people get on these definitives of, like they're going to follow that to the core, but they don't understand like there's exactly like you're saying, there's flexibility amongst it. It's different for different people. It's what works, not necessarily what works for you, but in a mindset state of it. And it's funny too. Like I think a lot of people this day and age is exactly like you're saying. It's a science. Follow the science, the study. Do you know how skewed studies can be based on how you want to skew the study? I think there's an epidemic out there that people don't talk about of like, if somebody goes in pouring their time, effort, energy, and funding into a study, you better believe they're going to find something to support that study. Hardly anybody would put money and time and be like, you know what, I was wrong. They'll say it was this or that. So I think there's so much nuance and discrepancy in what's actually true in studies. So to say to follow the science is kind of like lying to yourself.
I couldn't agree more. And also a lot of times they're following the science, but they're not following it, right? Like they're saying they're following it. So just recently, I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but he's, I categorize coach and influencers, right? Some of them call themselves coaches, but like, unless you've been in the trenches and unless you've coached people in person, a lot of times I'll tell any trainer, if you're getting started, either go work, do a mentorship program, an internship program, go get a job at a big box gym. I don't care if it's Equinox. I don't care if it's New York Sport Club, wherever it is. And they're like, well, why? Why can't I just go do what you do? I'm like, you need to be working with like just flat out volume. And you need to be seeing different personalities coming in every hour. And you need to be making a shitty paycheck out of the gate and understand the value for what putting that time is. And I feel like when people try and jump that step, They're not picking up on good and bad habits from other coaches. They're not picking up on good and bad habits from other clients. They don't have a training manager that they're able to learn from, good or bad. There's so many incredible lessons I learned from working at Equinox in 1999 for 1 year, even to the point where the Erical family sold it and it was bought by a private equity firm. And on month 6, the new GM came in to a training meeting and went, "You're all expendable." And we're like, "Oh my God, what worse message to say?" But she was right. It was something like, it was terrible. We all ended up getting canned. They brought their new crew in. They actually ended up hiring a few of us back. But "You're all expendable" was a lesson that I carried with me for my entire career. And because of that, it's probably one of the reasons why I've worked with the names I've worked with for as long as I've worked with, because I never sat there relaxing. I never sat there getting complacent in my behavior. They hired me to do a job. I'm replaceable. If I decide to quit tomorrow, they're going to replace me within the week. It's just the reality of it. But I think a lot of these coaches need to go out and get their hands dirty. But getting back, because I went off on a little bit of a rant there. This coach I was referring to was talking about that he goes 2 RIR, 2 reps in reserve. For those people who listening who don't understand, it's like if you have 2 reps in reserve, that means you are discontinuing the set with 2 extra reps. If you have 3 reps in reserve, it means you're discontinuing the set with 3 extra reps in you. And this gentleman was doing his set and was racking it. And he was like, "That's 2 RIR. I'm thinking to myself, that's like 6 or 7 RIR. Because if I was to come to you, this is just an example. I'm not saying I will. I don't want to get sued for this. But if I was to stand over you with a gun and go, "God damn it, you better push this set as hard as you can. I want your form absolutely perfect. Your family's life depends on it." That shows the intensity that a lot of people make fun of in taking sets to failure, and how hard it is when a bar's on your back and you have to take a set to failure, and the amount of shaking and the amount of discomfort that I very rarely have seen too many people online challenge themselves to that point. And it doesn't make it right or wrong. I'm not saying that you have to train like that. We get people in incredible shape by keeping them in that 3 to 5 rep in reserve range, where they're focusing on rep execution, what is their intention going into their set, et cetera, et cetera. But to see someone push themselves to that level, it's not what a lot of these other people, these coaches, are claiming that they do, or what they're telling people to do in their program.
So good. And I love that point that you hit on. I think I need to go deeper on it too, of the point of like, it's coach versus influencer. So I've seen it being in the basketball NBA world of, these guys with nicknames out there that have massive followings are probably not the guys you're going to go to if you're the highest level NBA player. There's two forms of it. I think the best ones are the ones who do it for the art of, and you do it for the art of. You didn't set out on this journey. People like, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon or Andrew Huberman, they didn't set out on this journey of like, "Hey, I'm going to manufacture followers so I can be an influencer." It's, "Hey, I love this. Hopefully other people want to listen and follow. I don't really care if they do, but because of the focus on the art of, people see that." And I think we live in such a day and age that it's like, you know what, I want to manufacture this so I can be an influencer instead of doing the hard work.
Listen, I started at Equinox in 99. A year later in 2000, I started my own personal training business. I went home to home in New York City. I was working out of a one-on-one training facility called the Training Ground and a place called Elysium. I was going as far south as the Ritz-Carlton Battery Park South, as far north as 95th Street, as far west as York. Far east as York, as far west as West End Avenue. I was training 40 to 60 one-hour sessions a day for probably 3 to 4 years before I funded to open my first club in New York City called Drive. I opened my second club called Drive 443. I'd one of the clubs for 15 years up until the pandemic. Like I was a coach. My first club was a golf fitness training facility, my longest standing club. And we worked with golfers. We did corporate events. And at a certain point, the economy changed. 07, 08, Lehman Brothers closed, Bear Stearns closed, Goldman Sachs almost went under, and we lost all of our corporate spending. We had a bar upstairs where we would do events and we do the training downstairs. And then it went from working with golfers, rotational sport athletes, kinematic sequencing, and we were doing blood work in 2005 to out of nowhere, I meet Hugh Jackman and I'm training him for a role. Right. And that's just being valuable. So like the celebrity coach thing, like, how do you be a celebrity coach? I'm like, I don't know, luck. I have no idea. Like, honestly, like some of the best coaches that I know on the planet have never worked with a celebrity. It really like celebrities will get to you through word of mouth. They'll get to you because you do a good job. They will get to you if you're really good and you're someone that is in the game for a long time. They'll get to you because there's this automatic trust that your name connects with in the industry, and this protectiveness where I would never want to expose a member. I remember Hugh Jackman wanting to do press back before there was social media, and me being like, no, like we got to focus on what you need to do, and I don't want there to be any noise. So yeah, I mean, it's been a good run for me in the industry. I mean, it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. But now to take my business to where we've been taking it and to do what we're doing now didn't exist back in those days, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, but it's a continual transformation amongst the time. But the focus has always been on how you love the journey. So there's two different types of people, right? It's funny. In the sports world, the Miami Heat head coach Eric Spoelstra, the Rams coach McVay, two really good friends. They both talked about their lowest point was after they won their first championship because they thought at the time the results were going to fill them. When exactly what you're talking about is you love the process. Yeah, you love the process. You love the journey. You love the growth. You're talking about going to a seminar with a hockey guy up in Canada. You're like, man, if I can take one thing away from that. If people could actually do that, that's going to lead to the success that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for the client especially, there's kind of a phrase I don't want to say I've coined it. I've never really heard anyone mention it before I did, but I've been saying it a long time, is I would say NSV, like, what's your NSV? And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, what's your non-scale victory? Because if we pay attention, like, look, water's a non-scale victory, like making sure I get my water. Like if I start paying attention to these non-scale victories and I start accumulating these non-scale victories over time, really good things are going to happen, right? It's you eliminate processed foods, non-scale victory. Like, don't worry, like we'll get to the scale. And as you accumulate more and more of these, that's why, like I brought up Paul Check earlier, guys, been one of the oldest and one of the best names in the industry right now. And so someone that most people don't know about, but this guy has just been, it's non-scale victory after non-scale victory. He doesn't need to count macros. He knows what his body needs. He knows what he needs to put into his body. He'll pay attention to things like soil and other things. That's going to discourage a large number of the population. But if you start leaning into these NSVs, I think you will turn around in time that, wow, like, and you hear it out of nowhere 6 months down the road, they're like, oh my God, I'm eating more and I lost weight. I'm eating more and my clothes fit me better. Oh my God, I'm eating more and I have abs. Like, how is that possible? I was always told I had to be in a deficit. I was like, well, you're already in so much of a deficit and you weren't losing weight. Like, your body didn't have the nutrition and energy it needed. It didn't have the fiber. We weren't coming into our day with good energy. We weren't coming into our day with good sleep. And as you improve these other things, activity level picks up, and out of nowhere, all these great things happening. And I just think there's a lot of misconceptions. Like when a nutritionist says you have to 100% be in a caloric deficit to lose weight and change body composition, I'm like, well, is that really true? Because what about all these people then who are reverse dieting and increasing their calories and getting in more fiber and getting in more nutrition, but yet they're changing body composition? But I thought you just said that you have to be in a deficit. Like, a woman comes to you eating 1,100 calories a day. She's not losing weight. She's actually putting on body fat. Are we going to drop her to 900 calories? Is that responsible? Like, come on. So how is it that we have to be in this deficit? So there's just ways I think about this that's a little different. I'm not afraid to say it, but this is what I try and teach my community.
Dude, I love it. I think NSV, man, if you want to talk about a sticky book title for a movement for people to get behind, that's low key, man. Like, that's an Atomic Habits kind of movement where it's small, simple things that move the needle. And it's way cooler than saying, trust the process. That's been said too many times. Yep. I would encourage you to look into that. If you haven't already, that's a movement. Like, I think people can get behind for sure.
Yeah, I've been saying it a while. I love it.
Yeah, do it. Okay, we're winding down here. I'm just going to throw a few things at you, and you can go as quick as you want on these and be like, hey, yeah, it's bogus. No, it's not. It's real. It's good.
Okay.
Metabolism. You started talking about metabolism right there. You've said RMR. Is metabolism something? Is it stuck? I know there's studies that have been out, and this is like, I don't know if this is, trust the studies or not, that metabolism doesn't actually decrease as much as people think it does in older age. I don't know, thoughts on metabolism. Then also I'm going to throw out there Ozempic. I know that's a huge thing. Obviously now is that a key? Is that a tool to use? Is that something that's a shortcut? Like, what are your thoughts on those two hot topic items?
Well, I'll keep it quick. Metabolism, I think you can manipulate it. Okay.
Love it. Awesome.
I think you can manipulate it. I've manipulated mine. I've gone in for RMR testing for, close to 20 years back when it took a lot of time to do so. And have I increased my RMR, and have I seen it decrease, and have I been able to increase it? Yeah. Yeah. And I really feel like I'm able to increase my RMR when I'm always strength training, but when my calories are where they need to be, and where my macronutrients are where they need to be.
Yep.
And I feel like those things improve. Now, my testosterone levels, over the last, ask Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, she's been doing my bloods for years. I've never taken any type of hormone. Yet, I've been able to bring my testosterone level up through the years. And people are like, well, how? I'm like, well, I eliminated stress from the city. I was commuting 3 hours a day, and I eliminated that. So my T went from here to here. It is possible. Now, do these things, are they going to decline in time? Yes, they are. But I also think we give up too quickly. And I think we start getting into our head that these things are going to decline. So whatever. And I think that's one thing I've been part of my mission, is to prove that we can hang on, and we can continue to PR, we can continue to do things. I moved the weight yesterday in the gym. I didn't expect to move it. I haven't touched that weight in 6 years. So I haven't touched that weight in 6 years, and it went up way easier than it did 6 years ago. 6 years ago, my eyes almost blew out, and I had probably an extra 25, 30 pounds in me. So like, there are ways that we can improve, and we can do these things. Ozempic, not my category. Again, I'm not a doctor. I've always shunned away from these conversations publicly because I'm not a doctor. What I can say is that there is there is a person out there that it would benefit. And there are a lot of people that are taking it that probably shouldn't be, that are leaning on this as a fat loss tool, where they don't want to necessarily pay attention to the basic principles that they need to be paying attention to in life, right? You want to be out, you want to be drinking 5 nights a week, you want to be eating like shit, your sleep's poor, you want to get on Ozempic or Mounjaro, one of these drugs. Okay. You can do that, but you should be exhausting these other things. And I understand. I've had clients of mine. I had a woman I worked with who's close to 900 pounds. Would it benefit someone like that? Yeah. You better put someone like that on it if they're allowed to be on it according to their doctor, not me. But when I see the housewife who's 150 pounds, who maybe just needs to tighten up her diet a little bit, and she wants to get on this, I feel like that can be irresponsible. And no matter what, who's ever on it should be strength training. I think at least 3 to 4 days a week. I think that's an absolute must. So yeah.
It's great, man. What is it? You can't rob Peter to pay Paul, or something like that. Anything that seems too good to be true, like that, like shortcut kind of stuff. Yeah, probably is.
Most of the time it scares me. I'm just
I feel you, man.
Do we really know? I mean, we've approached this world where, there's so much science, and there's so much research, and there's so much information, but there's just, I think, a really important factor for everyone is called time. Like, you're not gonna rush the maturity of a bottle of red wine, right? If it's got to go on the shelf and sit there for a while, it's got to go on the shelf and sit there for a while. And I think it's the same thing with this sort of thing. We just don't really know at the end of the day what individual is going to take what, and how are they going to respond to it. Because someone might be able to go and get away with smoking cigarettes their whole life, which is terrible for you, let's be clear. And I've seen people live a full life with it, and I'm like, how the hell did they not die of lung cancer? Yet one of my really good buddies, Sean Perrine, died of lung cancer probably 5-6 years ago, never smoked a cigarette in his life.
See, yeah.
Right? It was pescatarian, ate organic, trained, didn't drink.
Yep.
What the hell happened? So don't smoke, anyone. I'm not telling you to. That's not an excuse.
I hear you. No, I get exactly, totally, man. Wow, Don, it's amazing how the how in depth you can go. But if anybody, is looking for how do I build for the long term, I think you're the best at it. I mean, the
I
consistency,
appreciate it.
just what you've taught. Like seriously, I've been
Appreciate
following
it.
you for a long time, and just
Thank you.
seeing the consistency and the mindset aspect you have to it. It's the whole package, man.
I appreciate it, man. It's great being on. Thanks. I'm
Yeah,
honored.
tell us more about the challenge. What's the challenge going down? How can we all, get behind it?
So I think we're throwing your group into it, right? If it was according to my team, I think everyone's getting a free access to a month. So yeah, the challenge is 4 weeks of training with me. It's they're going to get access to my app for free. They're going to get 5 workouts a week. They're going to get daily. They're going to get video to the workouts daily. They're going to get access to be able to ask me questions Monday through Friday through a private Facebook group, a weekly Zoom call where the group could come on and ask me questions. This is all private, but you'll have access to me for 4 weeks. Last month we had close to 2,200 people on, and I did not miss one question. So if you're going to ask me a question every day, Monday through Friday, I'm going to answer. Listen, I'm a coach. I love this. I'm passionate about this. I'm a business person, but I will always be a coach. You parked $5 billion in my wallet, my bank account tonight. I'm still going to be coaching. It's part of what I am, and it's part of my identity. And I'm going to be honored to work with your group.
Well said, brother. Thank you, man. Thanks for coming on. Okay, so with Don Saladino,
Whatever he says, I agree. I'm just kidding.
I tend to agree with that too. He's a very smart guy, and just obviously looking at him, he knows what he's talking about. We were talking about tracking versus the feel. Tracking macros versus, just going by a feel and what your body feels. Is there, in your opinion, do you find it the best to learn to track first and then you can go by a feel? Or how important is it? Let's say we're trying to get the best body composition. We're trying to look like Don, look like you. What would you suggest to do?
Start by tracking. You have to know what you're ingesting. Otherwise,
it's just
don't
random.
know anything.
It's just random. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But after a while, again, it depends on what outcome that you're looking for. I don't track right now.
Yeah,
I know.
But since you've tracked?
But for years, I tracked.
Okay. And you can look at something and you're that's 50 grams.
Exactly. And then I also recommend if someone is new on their journey or they don't have the results that they want, if they do not have the body composition or health outcomes that they want, they have to go back to the drawing board. Mm-hmm. You have to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's like with anything, right? You have to, if you want results, you have to track. So would you say, all right, and there's so many different schools of thought. I think, well, not that I think that I know the training and nutrition are two of the most just so all over the place. This camp, this camp, this camp, this camp, this camp. The best time, let's say, to have carbs, is it before and after a workout? What works best for you?
I would say so.
Okay.
If you care about performance, then certainly before a workout. And if you are, let me put it this way. So your initial question is, when is the best time to have carbs?
Best time.
I would say before and after training. That sounds great.
Nice.
However, is it likely that someone could push out a post-feeding window for recovery? Mm-hmm. You could.
Okay.
But
how long would you say that window could be?
Within 24 hours.
Okay. So can be a deep window.
But again, I would say that's a lot of food to eat at once. Yeah. And it's being a bit strategic with how you're going to be able to consume the food that you need to consume.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. So in terms of the training aspect now, and this is something I've talked with our mutual friend, Andrew Huberman, about a lot. And I was always on this mentality. And I think a lot of people, when you're athletes and you have to train every day of the more equals better results. And I was, lifting 5-6 times a week. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Don't do that. Do 3 times a week. And then you can run a couple different variations each time a week. What do you think the best rhythm in terms of, I guess, just overall workout would be?
People should move every day. It doesn't mean you have to train hard every day, but you have to have movement incorporated into your life. We were talking about what I think is really important before we started recording. And it's this idea of intermuscular adipose tissue, or iMAT. The way that you maintain healthy skeletal muscle is you have to move. Unhealthy muscle is sedentary muscle. And when you are sedentary, then your muscle over time becomes more insulin resistant. It's kind of like a swamp. And that's why activity is so important. In terms of hard training, I mean, I train hard 3 days a week.
3 days a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband trains hard 1 day a week. And not by choice, but by utility. That's when he can train.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me more about the iMAT. That's really interesting. And it's kind of like, you know, things have it, they're different. Like it's the, you know, one size fits all. It's body fat percentage is what is the tracking metric, but this iMAT's different.
Yeah.
Go in depth on that. I think it's very interesting.
So iMAT is intramuscular adipose tissue. And we really frame things up in general about body fat percentage as if body fat percentage is the major meaningful marker.
Yeah, that's what anybody tracks. Like, hey, are you 10%? Hey, are you 12? What are you?
I think that's a mistake.
Yeah. Okay,
I think that's
good.
a mistake.
Thanks for taking that misnomer away from me.
Yeah. I think the real issue is this intramuscular adipose tissue. And intramuscular adipose tissue is extra fat tissue within that muscle. And that happens over time when you are not training. And when you have a steak that's like a ribeye steak, you get this fat infiltrated steak. And that's what happens to your muscle. And over time, it becomes less strong, metabolically impaired. And is body fat correlated to it? Yes, an individual could have higher body fat and higher intramuscular adipose tissue, but they could also have a variation in body fat, like a lineman. Maybe they have high body fat but low intramuscular adipose tissue, and their metabolic markers are all good.
Yeah, okay.
The idea that body fat percentage is the most important outcome, I think, is a mistake.
That's just a reflection of what the most important thing is.
Not necessarily. So intramuscular adipose tissue increases with age,
Yep.
increases with sedentary behavior. You'll see, quote, skinny fat.
Yeah.
I think that the issue is not their subcutaneous fat. It's the intramuscular fat.
Wow. Okay.
And that's what we need to actually start focusing on.
So how can we focus on that more? What do you think the shift will be? Because this is pretty revolutionary, I would say, in terms of, you know, no one talks about this.
Yes. Well, good lifestyle practices are definitely imperative, which is resistance training and diet. But I also think measuring intramuscular adipose tissue so you have a baseline is going to be important. And how you're going to do that is going to be your next question. Well, we don't have great and easy ways to do that.
Gotcha.
How we would do it would be ultrasound or MRI. And say, for example, in Japan, an individual could get an MRI for like $100. But here, it's not as accessible.
Yeah.
The moment it becomes more accessible is the moment we're going to be able to see at a population level in the US what we're actually dealing with. But I think the problem is that intramuscular adipose tissue.
That's really cool.
So it's this idea of muscle quality.
I love that.
You know, it's not just about having more muscle. It's about having better functioning muscle.
Yeah.
It's that lean muscle quality. And I think that's what's so critical.
Well, let's keep talking about that too, because I think it's like, you know, looking at, and it's just how people are, right? You know, you also believe people that look the part, and you and Don live it and look it. And I also think it's a thing of like, hey, you know, it's something to shoot for, to look like you, to look like Don. So let's just say like, hey, what are some of these, you know, getting quality muscle, the way to train hard? Like what are some, if we can go inside your world.
I mean, I think it's really exciting. Think about it.
I do too.
If we can quantify the amount of healthy muscle someone should have and begin to actually place qualifications. So for example, a lower quality muscle would be a weaker muscle, which has fat like in between these muscle bundles. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And let's say your body fat, which it's not, would be 30%, and my producer's body fat is 20%, but you had very low intramuscular adipose tissue, you would be healthier even though your body fat's higher.
Interesting. But then wouldn't you want to be like, well, cool, but...
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but it really allows us to reframe things. And I bet you these GLP-1s play a role in intramuscular adipose tissue, which is why there is, in part, PCOS, which we talked about, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is the number one cause of female infertility. There's a handful of studies where they're using Ozempic to treat PCOS. And one of the changes that they were looking at was the change in intramuscular adipose tissue.
Wow. So they're in that right now. They're going through that right now to find out. Maybe this, Ozempic is a wonder drug.
I mean, it's definitely a wonder drug. And
in
also,
more ways than it already is.
But also, listen, we know that there's no free lunch. But again,
that's a good point, because that's what I was kind of waiting for.
There's no free lunch.
Where does that free lunch come back and be a cost?
I mean, well, the fact is you have to do it.
Yeah.
But there's no free lunch. When you take Ozempic, I mean, there's a lot to think about there. And the first thing that we should say is that it's everybody's right to choose. I believe in body autonomy, and you can choose.
Yeah.
If you feel that you are someone who wants to try it and you don't have any health issues that would say that you can't, then you should. Whether you have 10 pounds to lose or 5 pounds to lose. Who are we to say that that's not appropriate? What if that person who struggles with the last 5 pounds is being mentally tortured?
There you go. That's a good point.
And have tried, I mean, you're all into mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's to say?
If that's the thing that's holding them back from a joy-filled life, it's not our decision to make of what holds somebody back. If that's their thing, then sure, that can be their unlock to help them get past that point. I agree.
So who are we to say?
Yeah.
Or criticize?
Yeah.
Now, does it potentially take the hard work out of changing body composition? Maybe. Or does it just free up the mind to be able to focus on the things that matter most for that person?
Well, that's an interesting point too, because it does take a lot to stay in great shape, get in great shape. And if you don't have that a lot, and an interesting point too is like, I think a lot of people lose when they're on the road, when they have to go out to eat. Like, I think there's a lot of external variables that, if you're at home all the time and you have the discipline to, eat the same
I have a solution to what you're saying.
And that's what I was getting to. I was setting up that question because
I have a solution for
I
you.
need this answer.
Standards.
Keep
You
going.
set standards for how you operate in this world.
Yeah.
Don Saladino, my best friend, that guy, he's got standards. I know when he's coming to visit me, I know that his room, he's going to have his Fiji water. And I know that I'm going to get this delivered, that delivered, and he's going to be all set up because he's got standards.
I love that.
And when you set standards, you are less distracted. You have way more discernment.
So good.
And when you are discerning, you have less internal conflict. You lose that pull of, should I do this, or should I eat that, or should I skip my workout, or should I be on my phone when I'm hanging with my kids? But if you set the standard and you are discerning in your thoughts and your actions, then you can follow your path.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more where it came from. You can go find another episode just like it right here. Come on. You can click it. You know you want to.